Hey guys, welcome to another Abrant 3's Halo costume making tutorial. We've already covered a strengthening tutorial, but this is actually an extension of that. We're going to be covering fiberglass matting or clothing, so here we go. I'm sorry I didn't cover this already in the strengthening tutorial earlier, but I actually didn't do it at first until I realized that the resin is actually pretty fragile without the fiberglass inside of it, and I've actually cracked a couple of pieces and had to repair them. Right now we'll go over a list of materials of what you'll need to do the fiberglass matting. You'll need to go get a fiberglass mat or fiberglass cloth. They both cost the same. The mat is actually a little bit more rigid. I think it's a little bit easier to work with because it's able to judge how it's going to fit in an area because it's not flopping around like the cloth does. And the fiberglass mat also cuts just as easily as the cloth does. You'll need a pair of scissors to cut it with, and then you'll need all the materials that you needed to resin the piece earlier. It's just that the mat is actually going to be embedded in the resin during this process. So the steps before you fiberglass, you actually need to go ahead and resin the outside of your piece. I actually like to do the fiberglass just on the inside. So resin the outside just so you can have a little bit of rigidity so that when you press the fiberglass in place, it's not going to warp your model at all. And then when you go to fiberglass, you just want to fiberglass the inside of the piece. If you fiberglass the outside of the piece, you're going to lose a lot of the sharp edges and a lot of the detail that went into actually assembling it from Pepakura. What you need to do is cut appropriate sized pieces so that they'll fit in the areas here. It's a good idea to go ahead and cut all the pieces out just to see how they're going to lay and make sure you don't have any areas that aren't going to be covered with fiberglass. Then you mix a batch of resin. Go ahead and put a pretty thick coat on the inside. You don't have to be very delicate. It doesn't have to be even necessarily. Just make sure you get it in all the cracks and crevices. And then take the piece that you cut out for the area in the fiberglass mat and place it in there. Press it down in the resin. Then get your brush, put another big coat of resin on your brush, and just start dabbing it into place. And start covering all of the little cracks here, all the ridges and everything. Just tap your brush down in all those places, and you want to completely cover the top layer of the mat as well and get it completely saturated with the resin. It's going to take a lot more resin to do this than it is to just put one coat of resin on the outside. So be prepared to do several different batches to get all the way on the inside of your piece. It also is a good idea to maybe leave a little bit of overlap on each of the edges, so when it cures you can take your rotary tool and actually cut off the access. That way you can be sure it gets all the way to the edge, all the way to the top of each piece. So the result is after it cures, it's very strong. This is what car bodies are made out of. It's going to be able to take a lot of abuse. Your leg pieces are obviously the ones that are going to be moving around a lot. You're going to be bumping into things. Your boot pieces, like I showed you before, definitely need to be important to fiberglass, and make sure you do a good job on those because you're going to be kicking stuff. Accidents do happen. Make sure you do a good job of getting it all covered on the inside with the fiberglass. Leave no paper showing. Leave nothing that is not completely saturated with fiberglass, because if there is an area that is not covered with the fiberglass, it still has a possibility to crack. So I hope that has helped those of you that were unclear on that subject. I'll try to have more tutorials coming soon.